With this session update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. The Senate passed a measure that would provide an off-ramp from the eviction moratorium. Here are some highlights from the floor debate.
What we have here is an off-ramp to the eviction moratorium. And just for a little background, for those of you who are not on the Housing Committee and really don't play in this field, there is a federal eviction moratorium in place right now. A federal eviction moratorium in place for people making up to $99,000 a year. $99,000 a year and less, you would qualify for the federal eviction moratorium protection that it offers. Our bill here tries to have a step-down approach to an off-ramp. 30 days after it would be signed into law, the first phase, you could begin, after 30 days, the eviction process for people more or less that are the bad apples, the ones that broke the lease other than non-payment. 60 days after, you would go to the people that breached the lease but didn't qualify for the state program. Part of that almost $400 million that we received in Minnesota to help tenants that couldn't pay their lease. $400 million. And then the third phase would be to start the eviction process or the lease termination after 90 days. There is protection at the end of the bill for people that are working through the process. We have help out there for tenants, people. We have almost $400 million. Every single one of us, all 67 senators, should be bringing back to their districts and encouraging people to apply for help if they need it. So if they have applied for help and they qualify, they cannot be evicted up till June of 2022.
We're not 24 hours out from another murder of a man of color on the part of our law enforcement in Minnesota. Our state is reeling. Law enforcement's reeling. Our communities are reeling. We're wondering, what is next? How are we going to deal with this trauma, this pain? What is the answer? How are we going to move forward together with this happening over and over again? And now here we are in the Senate of the state of Minnesota. Not 24 hours has passed, and we are talking about how to end the moratorium on evictions. I mean, it's just unconscionable.
The support, the money is here. 30-some states are up and running, handing out money to those tenants that need the help. And I think that is one of the goals of this bill, is to get people to apply for the help. The longer we keep the eviction moratorium going without an off-ramp, the more we hurt people. And we need this off-ramp to encourage people to apply for the help that is sitting here. I would hope that we will see that website up and running this week so we can get the help to the tenants.
There's money here to help. We want people to stay in their apartments. We want people to stay in their homes. This amendment to this bill, again, it's not perfect, but it moves us down the path. It helps clarify when an eviction can occur. And under the current orders right now, under the governor's emergency powers and eviction order, right now there can be certain evictions, but nobody knows when that is. And so I've had constituents call, and I've had landlords call saying, there's a domestic abuse situation in my duplex. Why can't that person be evicted? Why does the victim of the domestic abuse have to leave? The landlords don't know what to do. The courts don't know what to do. So this helps clarify some of that. I had a tenant call, lives in a fourplex. It's a non-smoking fourplex. The lease says it's non-smoking. The tenant called to say, since the pandemic started, one of their neighbors has been smoking nonstop. The smoke seeps through, the secondhand smoke seeps through into their apartment. As a person with allergies, I understand that's not good. So they want to know, what can they do? Why did they have to leave? They want clarity. Well, so this clarifies that in domestic abuse situations, in certain criminal activities, such as prostitution, gun violence, and when you seriously endanger the safety of others, people can be evicted. We all know secondhand smoke endangers the safety of others, but that person doesn't know what to do. That landlord doesn't know what to do. This bill will help clarify. It'll help move us along so that there is clarity.
Please go to renthelpmn.org. There is almost $500 million in federal funds available for rental assistance. Please apply. If you are behind on your rent, you need assistance, or if you are a landlord who has tenants who are behind on rent, you can also apply on behalf of them. So this bill is not perfect, as you've heard many times, but it's a step in a continued conversation, and I think that is the important piece. The legislature should be playing an active role in building this process, and this is a step in us continuing to have that conversation both here in the Senate and also with the other chamber. We need to get that $500 million in rental assistance out to the folks who need it. And this builds a process. This is a step towards building the process where we will hopefully be able to come to an agreement to make sure that we are protecting folks who qualify for assistance, building a path for them to access it, and making sure that we are supporting our landlords and tenants and building a path to come out of this pandemic.
The governor challenged us back in January to work on a ramp down for the eviction moratorium. That's what we have in front of us. And when we have an eviction moratorium wind down, let's not forget that there are notices and steps along the way before an eviction can occur. As Senator Port said, there would be a court case that would be heard before anybody were evicted from their premises. So there are already protections in existing law that Senator Draheim has recognized, but he's also recognized, as Senator Port said, not to drop this thing on day one, but to have a phased-in approach over time. And I think that's the right way to address this. And I will say that I appreciate Senator Draheim's modifying the Emergency Powers Act, because the governor's executive order was not clear. The governor's executive order was not balanced. And I'll give you a perfect example. I have a constituent, and I appreciate Senator Draheim's help with this. I have a constituent whose renter has not had their economic circumstances change at all. This person has not paid rent since April. They're trying to move a family member in. They can't do it. They've gone to court, and the court has ruled that the governor's executive order, despite breaking portions of the lease, do not rise to the level that they believe the governor intended. And so this, I think, as Senator Port just said and Senator Disick just said, adds necessary clarity to a flawed executive order.
There's parts of the bill I really like. I think we did a good job on, and there's other parts that I do have problems with, but that's part of compromise. You know, is moving forward, and I think the heart of the bill is in the right place, and it's to help people, encourage people to apply for that program that should be up and running this week, to get the help they need. And just think about it. If you haven't paid rent in the last year, how much money you will owe. They still owe that money with the executive order or without the executive order. We have help available for people. They have to get out and apply for that help. And then on the flip side, property taxes are due in a month. The landlords have to pay property taxes. They have to pay their mortgage. So we need to help everybody involved here. The last thing we want are more housing units taken off the market. and have less units available for people to rent.
There being 46 ayes and 21 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.
To continue following these issues and more, watch legislative coverage Monday through Friday on the PBS Minnesota channel or visit our website, www.senate.mn/media.